Hey there, and good morning. In this episode, we are going to create a laptop UI design. Now, don't worry if you're struggling with design, that's fine. I struggle with design myself, but I'll try to give you a few cool tips that you can apply to all of your websites or apps, and it's just magically going to make it look nice. It's like magic. So sit back, enjoy. I'm gonna do this one in Figma, and I highly recommend you to follow along with me. And let me know if you want to see more of these types of UI designs on this channel. Oh, I almost forgot to do the magic trick for today. This one is called the sleeping finger. All right, I'm gonna make my finger fall asleep. I snap, and that hurts. Okay, so a great start for a good design is gonna be an image. Okay, so either an image or an illustration, and that's gonna dictate a lot of how your website is gonna look. So finding a great image can be very hard, but you can think of this like a wild animal. Okay, you're not just gonna look for a random picture here and put this in your website like this banana cactus. All right, what you do is you take that picture, you work with it and blend it to your own liking. All I did is we're gonna crop the image out and we're gonna adjust the lighting down here a bit because it's very, very bright. Now, if you want these images, I'm gonna provide them in the link in the description, so don't worry, but I highly recommend you to try with something different. So I just brought this in here. I grab the W, press here, make my brush size a bit bigger and just select everything like so. I'm gonna do a rough job now because I don't want this to take a bit too long. The edges are hard a bit here to select just because it kind of blends with this white. Just because this one is very bright as well. But that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna kind of select this. I have mine already finished, but after you select it, you can say select a mask up here. If you don't see this, you can click W and then it's gonna pop up there. Okay, so once we select it, everything is good. We're gonna go down here and I'm gonna do, you cannot see it, so let me fly away on this side of the screen. All we do is we output to a new layer and hit OK. So that's gonna give you only this. Now I messed it up here because I hurried a bit, but what you do here, you can also output with select and mask, and then you can adjust this mask later on if you want to do that. But once we have this, what I also did is I wanted to make this less shiny because it's super, super shiny. So what you do is you just go up here to the adjustments and I'll just add I believe I added a levels. So I'm gonna click on levels and I'm just gonna drag this brightness, the dark side here, all the way to something like that. Okay, maybe this middle point a bit. All right, just something like that, so it's not super bright. Now, I don't want to apply this to the whole image, so what you can do is I can select this white here, and again, what's white, basically how this works, the mask, is what's white is where the effect applies, and everything you paint with black gets rid of it. So take a look, if I go to my brush tool here, so B, or this one, I'll make this smaller a bit, and if I draw over this with black, so I'm going to switch here to black, or you can press X and that's going to switch. If I draw over this, see, it brings back the original picture, just like so. So I can just paint over this and I can select the areas I want to darken. So to do that, I just paint with white. So I'm going to switch back to white and look at that. Boom, I just paint over this a bit and I have that nice effect only layered on top of this. Now, you can do a better job at this. You can zoom in, kind of adjust it the way you like it. But that's all I did. And I highly recommend you to do this to your images as well. Just adjust them a bit, correct them, maybe bring down the saturation or whatever you want. Drop it in here and there we go. This one is super large. I'm gonna zoom out and just grab this, hold down Shift. So I resize it and keep the aspect ratio, and there we go. We have something like this. I'm gonna size it down a bit further. So there we go, maybe a bit bigger because I kind of want to make this what the whole page is about, okay? So this is very important up here. Good, all right, so what I usually do is I bring in the picture and then I kind of think about a good title and description so you can captivate someone with this laptop. And after you do that, you have a call to action, which means a button basically that inclines you to buy the product. I'm gonna lay everything out here and then we're gonna kind of size everything and make everything look nice. But that's the first thing I wanna do. So I'm gonna grab the text tool and just drag out here. I'm gonna say laptop for the future. All right, I'm gonna grab everything in here. I'm gonna size this up, something like 48. All right, we want this to be a bit larger, and that's good. Bring this down here. I'm gonna do another one. Let's add a description. So the new 14-inch bezel-less display offering, excuse my typos if I do any, a 4K display with touch controls. Touch screen, not touch controls. Okay, so let's make this a bit smaller. And this kind of works. The logic behind this is, let's do 24, something like that. All right, so you always want to make your titles a bit bigger. I mean, there are different ways you can accentuate for people to look at the title. One of them is to change the size. Okay, so since this is larger, this is going to pop in your eyes more. Okay, so that's one way. You can have this at the same size if you want. So you can have this 24. Now, as you can see, it's kind of difficult for this. This doesn't really pop out. So another way you can do that is to give extra space. Something roughly like this. All right, maybe this, like separation here also makes this a bit more pop out. But another great way you can do it, let me just make this bigger, is you can use contrast or color to accentuate. So if I make this a bit grayer color like that, as you can see, this is a bit more visible. It catches your eyes more. And we can also do a medium or a bold. That's also going to bring it out a bit more. All right, but for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do 48. So I'm going to hit 48. We're going to change this to medium. I think that will be more than fine, just because our size is quite big. And we have this here. And to be honest, what I did on my final one is I added a gradient. Now that's just optional, just pure styling that I wanted to add. I didn't want to do pure black here. So I went to gradient here, linear, and I just dragged one point here and the other point here. And the reason I did this, I just thought it would be a bit, I don't know, it gave a bit of style and finesse to this. So I kind of liked it. And the color that we're going to change it to is, let's do something around here. I'm going to go to like a bluish color maybe, but I want to keep that dark gray. So somewhere around 24233F. Okay, and this one, I'm going to bring up the opacity. So let's bring up to 100, or you can drag this up here. And for this one, let's do a bluish color. On the second one, something like, let's say 6F6F89. All right, so something like that. And maybe open this color up a bit like that. All right, so there we go. That's one. For this one, I think I'm just gonna keep a grayish color. So let's get this one. I'm gonna bring it up here. We're gonna leave it at 24. And I'm gonna change this. We're gonna go to that bluish. Or we can optionally just sample out from this up there. And there we go, take a look. We have those two, so that's good. And let's build out a button down here and maybe another button that allows you to select a laptop size. Now this is the 14-inch here. So let's add a 14-inch button so people can select. And the way I like to do my buttons is just drag this out like 130 to 70, or maybe a bit smaller, something like that. Let's do 50, 1 pixel down, and it's this is like never working. You want to drag 1 pixel down and it jumps to 51. Okay, so something like that. And here, what I want to do, so I have this grayish, bluish kind of color for my texts. If you want to have a button that you want to accentuate and you want people to see and for it to pop out, is you're going to use another color. So I would recommend you to use only 2 colors and see what you can come up with. So for this one, we're gonna do with this bluish grayish color. We're gonna use it for multiple things, for our nav bar, for our cart up here. But for the buttons, I wanna do something a bit different. So I choose a pinkish color for this one, and you're gonna see that it's gonna make it pop way more. So let's do that pinkish color. I selected one already out here, so I'm just gonna add this one. It's C36CBB. Okay, perfect. And I'll just add a text on top. So I'll just grab the text tool, just drag it out. I'm gonna say add to cart. Now this is extremely huge, so I'm gonna grab everything and just make it smaller. 18 is perfect. Okay, now to put this perfectly in the center, what you can do is just drag these until it sticks on top of that purple. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see. Just drag in like that. And then you can go here and you can click this middle one. That's gonna text align middle, and this is gonna do it vertically. Perfect. Another important thing that you should keep in mind is that contrasts can be your enemy sometimes. So if you have the dark text on top of a darker kind of color like this, it's not gonna be as visible. So you would have to open this color up all the way to something brighter like white. All right, that's gonna pop, make it very visible and easy to read. And yeah, so I see this a lot of times where people just do a dark color like that, and then you would drag a text on top and it's still black, so add to cart, and that's just not very visible. There are different tools you can use out there on the internet. I believe there's one called, if you just search contrast web check, you're gonna find it, and it's gonna tell you if your button has enough contrast. Not button, your text over a background. So as you can see, this is not that great, kind of blends in. But if we open this up to white, take a look, perfect. Same thing applies if you have this a brighter color. So here, a darker text color would work better. Okay, so there we go. Okay, let's get rid of this. But that's something very important that you should keep in mind, because things are just not gonna look that good. So this is our main button. I'm gonna grab this one, and I'm gonna hit Control G. That's gonna group everything up, and I'm gonna rename this to add to cart. Perfect. I'm gonna drag it here because I wanna have another button. Now, how can you make a button less important than the other one? Well, this one is filled with this pink. So an option, if you want to have multiple buttons, but this one is the main one, is you can just add a border on top and leave the fill white. All right, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. And to be honest, we can just copy and paste this one. So if I hold down Alt and just drag, that's gonna create another one for us. Okay, so the thing I'm gonna change is this. I'm gonna say size here. Okay, there we go. So we have a size, and I'm gonna, and one pro tip here is, let's click on this. Let's rename this to size button. Pro tip here would be, if you click on this, it's gonna select the group for us. But what if I wanna access this background or the text? Well, you can just double click, and as you can see, that opens this group up all the way, and it's only gonna select the background. So all I'm gonna do is add a stroke. Let's make this something like 3 pixels, so here. And I'm gonna copy this. Actually, it kind of saves it down here for you, so you can just pick it. So we can just go here and just click on that, and it's automatically gonna sample it. We can remove this, and this is what we have. Take a look. And then on the size, now since this is white, we can change that. So let's do a darker color. Now, as you can see, this kind of looks weird because it's all black. So that's why I'm saying that you should only pick like 1 or 2 colors, because if you're doing more than 1 or 2, things are gonna look kind of inconsistent. As you can see here, we have this gray, so this kind of looks a bit weird. So I'm just gonna sample this color from up here like that. All right, so we have size, but I actually wanna have another thing here. I wanna have kind of an arrow that makes you able to select the colors. So I'm gonna double click on this text, or just get this text and make it smaller. And you can also resize it if you go here to these 3 dots, and you can click on this resize. And as you can see, it's gonna resize it. And now it's the size of the text. Good, so how can we create an arrow? Well, Figma gives us love, and we have an arrow tool. Okay, so we can just drag it down like so. Let's zoom in. I'm gonna make this tree as well. Okay, but this kind of looks weird. I only want to have these two last parts. So what we can do is we can actually just drag this down all the way here. Now, don't drag it all the way because it's gonna break dance for you, and we don't want to break dance now. So I'll just drag it in like that. We're gonna select it, and you have to make sure you have to select both of these points, because if you don't, then that's gonna happen and it can get a bit annoying. So now this selects the text. So I'm just gonna grab these two, hold down Shift and just lock them a bit. So I can just grab this. Okay, there we go, and bring it in here. All right, so let me bring it up to this part of the text, and that's perfect. And I'm just gonna change the color to this as well. Okay, perfect. All right, that looks good. What we can also do, I mean, we can use this pink if we want. Let's take a look. Does that look better? All right, that works as well. So we can do that. There we go. That's whatever you feel like, you can choose. And let's not add size here. Let's say this is the 14-inch, like so. And just give it a bit more space, like so. And grab this one. And then we're gonna position these buttons just in a bit with the grid. Okay, now the problem with this is, I feel like it kind of floats here in the air, okay? It doesn't really have anything defined. It looks like I just copied and pasted it off the internet. It doesn't have any shadows. It doesn't look natural. So as you can see down here, it should have a bit of shadow. So it actually looks like it lays on something. So what we can do is exactly that. We can just create a drop shadow. So let's go to effects here. And as you can see, it adds a drop shadow, and take a look. We can click here. We have some options. We have blur. And I'm going to keep it black, but I'm going to raise it to something like 80, something like that. So there we go. I also feel like this is way too colorful in here. So what you can do is you can click on this image, and we can just lower the saturation down a bit, like so. Perfect. All right, let's create a nav bar up here. And then we're gonna kind of lay everything and position everything the way we want. Now, I also made a super basic logo here, and it was called 3 dots. So let's just make it up here, and just grab the ellipse tool and just drag out 3 small circles. So I'm gonna do 22 pixels each. Just drag this out. I'm gonna drag it to the center and drag one more time to the center. All right, I'm gonna grab all 3 and change the color, and we can grab that grayish for now. So let's grab that gray color, click, perfect. Now this still doesn't look that good in my opinion. So what we can do is we can add a pass-through. So if I change this, I'll grab the first one, change this to 50. As you can see, it just means that it's passing through to whatever is behind. So since we have the white in the back, it's just gonna show that white more. If we do it 50%, if we do it to 0, then we're only gonna see the background. So take a look. But the cool thing is that we can kind of blend it with this one. So I'll change the last one to 50 as well. And I'll change the middle one as well to 50. Enter. There we go. We have that interesting kind of logo. All right, let's position these a bit to the center just to make sure everything is nicely positioned. Perfect. I'm gonna grab everything, hit Control G. We have everything grouped up. I'm gonna rename this to logo. Also make sure to rename all your little files here and your pictures, because it's gonna get quite messy if your project is a bit larger. Okay, so that's one. The next thing we're gonna do is add a logo here. So a title that's gonna be called 3 dots. Okay, now I kind of wanna have maybe a few nav texts here. So maybe one with products, contact, or specs. So I'll just grab the text tool, just drag out, call this specs. Perfect. We can make this a bit larger. Let's do 18. All right, and I can just drag this and copy paste it a few times like that. And I can just change the text if I want. So products, and this is gonna be contact. Okay, now let's kind of position everything in here. Layout grid, there we go. We can click on this. That's gonna add a grid that looks absolutely horrible and confusing. So to fix that, we can click on the grid up here, and I can change it from a grid to a column. And we're gonna add 12 here. So the count is gonna be 12. And we can even leave some margins on the left and right side. So to do that, we can go up here to margin. I'll just leave 100 pixels. Now it depends what kind of design you want to do. You might not want to have margins, but for this one, I'll leave with 100 pixels margin. Okay, you can change the color as well. If you want to get creative, you can have fun. All right, there we go. I like the bluish, pinkish. There we go. I'm happy with that. So now all you have to do is just arrange it based on this grid. So I'll just grab these three and just bring it down here. Just make sure that they're aligned perfectly one to each other. And I'll bring one each in their own kind of column. Good, that's one. And maybe we can, I'm gonna leave a bit of space here because I wanna add a shopping cart here as well. So I just got an SVG of the internet here. So I'm gonna bring that in here, drag it all the way up here. There we go. And the same thing you can do, you can also add a search or whatever button you wanna have up here, but that's fine. Let's also do it with these texts, get rid of the grid. Now I kinda wanna have also a button here where I can select different models. So for that, I'll just quickly drag out a few circles. Let's do 30 pixels. That's fine. We don't want them to be too large. So that's one. Let's do 20 space again. Let's do 4. There we go. And then this one is only going to have a stroke. I mean, let's get rid of the fill. Change this to 3. Perfect. And we're going to get the colors from this gray. We can also copy this little arrow from here to there. Oops, let's not do that. Zoom in. Let's select this arrow, copy, paste. All right, drag this. Optionally, you can just drag out 2 lines and combine them. You can also do that. But I'm a masochist and I want to do extra work. Perfect. Let's bring this in here. You can also use the grid tool again to align it to your liking. I'm just going to do it kind of according to this one. So I'm going to drag it till the end of that circle because I don't want anything else passing through this line because I'm going to have that 100 margin. Oh, I cannot speak anymore. I'm going to have that 100 pixel margin here. So I don't want to go past that. But there you go. Now, if you find this a bit boring, if you want to have a bit of fun, add a bit of flair to your website, I kind of use that company's logo to just add a bit of, I don't know, just make this a bit more fun looking. So I just dragged out a few circles here, just a big one here, and I dragged all the way in this frame. Just drag this out like that, something like that. Okay, and I kind of sampled out this grayish color from here, like that, and just lower the opacity to something like 50. And we can also add a gradient if we wanted this. So there we go. And let's change this a bit. So this is going to be opacity 0. I mean, you can flip this around if you want, like whatever floats your boat, something like that. That's interesting. And I also did 2 more. So let's do something like this. And this is going to be even less visible, something like 30 or 25. And I'll do another one down here. So this is going to be like 15. And there we go. Thank you very much again for watching. We are close to 50K subs. Oh my God. It's kind of crazy that we were at 5K last month and now it's like times 10. So that's super exciting. I'm gonna create a Patreon at 50K. We're also gonna do a Discord server there and places where you can ask me questions if you need any help, and I'll try to figure out some more perks when you join up, so stay tuned for that. Also, all the courses that I'm gonna film are gonna go there for free as long as you're a Patreon member, so it's gonna be very, very exciting. Yeah, that's it for me today. Again, let me know if you want to see more of these type of UI design tutorials, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.